Hey, you guys. I want to share with you this book from Alaska, Homer, Alaska. It's by the Homer, Alaska Foundation. My daughter, I got this from my daughter. One daughter just went to visit my other daughter in Homer, Alaska, and they had a wonderful time together. Then, my one daughter from Alaska, she lived there 3 years. Now she just moved to Monterey, California. She said Alaska was wonderful, but she's still a native California girl at heart. Oh, it's nice having her back in California. Here's the gum I'm chewing tonight, by the way. Trident bubble gum. I don't need my clicker. So, I don't know how much reading this book has. I know it has beautiful photographs. And it should be fun and relaxing. And beautiful. Alaska is beautiful. Okay. And somebody let me know. I probably should have asked my daughter how to pronounce the name of the bay. But Kachemak sounds better than the way it sounds. Kachemak. So I'm going to be pronouncing it Kachemak. But if I'm pronouncing it wrong, somebody let me know. Kachemak. Kachemak. Seems like it sounds better. Sounds better. I don't know why. The Homer Foundation, Homer, Alaska. 1995 USA. Pretty. And Kachemak Bay. The beauty and the grandeur of the Kachemak Bay area seen through the eyes of local photographers, together with essays, poems, and captions expressing local writers' insights into life on the bay. Proceeds from the sale of this book support the philanthropic endeavors of the Homer Foundation, whose mission is to promote philanthropy on the Southern Kenai Peninsula. The Homer Foundation, connecting generosity with community need on the Southern Kenai Peninsula since 1991. Can you see this little spit here? They call it the spit. See that little thing of land that like shoots out? They call it the spit. And my daughter had a job. She was a barista in one of the, I don't know, cafes or one of the restaurants or coffee shops. And she was a barista and she loved it. She did that during the off And they call it the spit. Isn't that funny? I wonder why they call it the spit. There's Homer, right here, Homer, Alaska. That's where she lived she lived there for 2 years. In her first year, she was somewhere else. She was, I forgot where. And then, let's see the back flap. The Homer Foundation family of funds. The Homer Foundation currently manages 28 different funds. To set up a fund or to contribute to an existing fund, give us a call or connect with us at the Homer, www.homerfund.org. The Homer Fund. And then they have all these fields of interest, donor advised funds, agency endowment funds. Wow, that's pretty cool. Everybody working together. Okay. Excuse me, I cannot believe I sneezed. I hardly ever sneeze, excuse me. So we'll put this, I'll put that flap right there. Maybe not. There. Now, I cannot believe I sneezed. That's terrible. Alright, well, here we are. Kachemak Bay, Alaska. So, let me know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Oh, here's a little lighthouse. Salty Dog Saloon. Oh, that's a wonderful story in itself, that little Salty Dog Saloon and the lighthouse. And here we are, Kachemak Bay, the Homer Foundation, Homer, Alaska. And you need to know these my guess is that 99 of these photographs are completely untouched. My daughter took pictures on her little iPhone that were so amazingly beautiful. Here we have, for information on the photos or to order additional copies of this book, call the Homer Foundation, Homer, Alaska. Copyright 2005, first edition of Kachemak Bay. Book and cover design by Barbara Jo Auburn. Printers, Printworks, Homer, Alaska. I'm Warsaw, Stevens Point, Wisconsin. Front jacket photo of, that's the spit. That's the spit. It's like this little thing of land that juts out into the ocean right there. That's a spit. That was a photo by Wild North Photography. And then a picture on the back of those ships. Was the Homer Harbor. Photo by Michael Armstrong. Courtesy of Homer News. Acknowledgement. This book is dedicated. Let's see. I'm missing a feather, I think. I'm not going to touch that one because I think it's holding up. It's holding up the jacket. dedicated to those of us that live and work and play in and around Homer and Kachemak Bay. For it is in us that these images and words all resonate most deeply. The Kachemak Bay Book Project was conceived as a fundraising vehicle, a souvenir book for visitors and locals alike. As with any community project, there are many people to thank for assisting us on our journey. I wish to thank Sue Post, who planted the seed as a co-owner of the local bookshop. Sue felt there was a need for a picture book of Homer, and she thought it could be a great fundraiser for our nonprofit community foundation. She was committed to the project from start to finish, serving on the book project committee. Homer Foundation Board of Trustee members Ann Keffer and Phil Norris also played instrumental roles serving on the committee. With his business acumen, Phil was able to present a pro forma to ensure that the project was a sound investment for the foundation. With her eye for detail and her sharp pencil, Anne was our editor-in-chief for all things written. She was also our liaison with the local writers whose captions, essays, and poems are included in this book. To our contributing writers, I say thank you for being so quick, despite looming deadlines, back surgery, and broken legs, to add your videos to our project. It is an honor to have the cream of Homer's literary community represented here on our pages. Thank you, Daisy Lee Bitter, Nancy Lord, Ava Solitas, Sharon Bushel, Janet Klein, Tom Gizia, and Tom Bodette. Well, okay, Tom Bodette doesn't actually live in Homer anymore, but his heart is still. Tom Bodette is that the Motel 6 guy. Remember? Motel 6 used to have a TV commercial saying, "Hi, I'm Tom Bodette." That's funny. Your words help to paint the picture of who we are, where we live, and why we live here. Homer sits on the shore of Kachemak Bay in one of the most spectacular settings in all of Alaska, if not the world. And so, from the beginning, this project was envisioned as a pictorial essay of this incredible place we get to call home. To all of the photographers who submitted photographs, we owe a huge debt of gratitude, amateurs and professionals alike. Thank you. Each image submitted said something unique about where we live. The book project committee pondered long and hard over these images. We were thankful to have photographer Will Rice of Anchorage lend his creative and technical eye to the selection process, while we still tried to be as inclusive as possible to retain the community aspect of the project. We regret the space limitations that did not allow us to highlight more of you. Many others shared their knowledge and advice freely to help us along the way. Chris and Michael at Mad Dog Graphics in Anchorage, and Kevin and Sandra at Printworks in Homer. As professionals, they all must have thought us a little crazy for taking on a project we knew so little about, but they lent a hand willingly, and thanks to my friend Barbara Jo Alpern, formerly of Homer, for coming out of early retirement to bring her very personal touch and her love of Homer to the graphic design of our book. The entire process has been one of sharing, building, and reflecting on community, and so it is doubly appropriate that the process Not pretty. Water. Gifts from the sea. Oh, over here, this picture over here. Let me read it first. It said, whale species that visit Kachemak Bay include humpback whale, the smaller mink, beluga, and orca killer whales. And then over here, look at this. Red sea urchin, sometimes called a marine pincushion. Isn't that pretty? And yet, there is only one great thing, the only thing, to live to see the great day that dawns and the light that fills the world. An old Indian Inuit song, Northern Eskimo. Isn't that beautiful? And then, what is that? Sunrise over, this is a sunrise. There's the spit right there. There's a spit. And this is a sunrise over the Homer spit. And here we have cormorant at sunset. Look at those cormorant birds. Sunset. And sockeye or red salmon right here. Then sea otter. And then a sun. A blood star. Starfish right there. Still called corkline by old-timers, the flotation on the upper part of the net was formerly of cork. Presently, the buoyant white floats which suspend heavy commercial fishing nets are made of synthetics. Left, these set netters fill their brailer with silvery rewards, wild salmon, which they have recently picked from the net. And in this picture, it says purse signer on Kachemak Bay. So, is that a type of a fishing boat? It says purse signer or purse seiner. Fishing boat. The best way to encounter Kachemak Bay may be over the gunwale of a kayak. The gunwale of a kayak. Up close, a paddle tip away from the translucent green medium suspending you and whatever is floating nearby. The murre and sea otters eyeing you like you're just another odd bit of sea life. Wow. Then, again, the traditional local boat, the open skiff, covers a lot more water, and when you emerge from that wave-slapping run, sunburned, windburned, rainburned, there's no question you've had an encounter with the bay. Or it may make sense to travel in a protective cabin on a bigger boat. waiting for the fishing grounds to emerge in the moment when the line enters the water. It's the magic moment when anything can happen. So many of our encounters with nature here have to do with hunting food. Kachemak Bay is a great nursery where strong-armed current gyres mix the benthic profusion of the Gulf of Alaska with the river-borne nutrients of Cook Inlet. This process draws life all the way up the food chain, all the way to us at the top of the pyramid. Sometimes the best encounter with the bay can be from the beach, say a subsistence gillnet strung out, and two of your white corks dancing, or maybe you've got dinner for six, or a couple of Dungeness crabs harvested from a tidal lagoon for an impromptu cookout. A recollection from back when sustenance crabbing was still legal, though not, even then, I suspect, legally taken with the blade of a kayak paddle. These are the moments when the salmon are leaping and eagles circle overhead, and there are mussels on the beach and berries ripening, and all the bounty in the world seems to be spilling out in your presence. Look, there's somebody with a paddle kayak. Doesn't that look relaxing and peaceful, all by yourself on this calm water in the bay? Of course, not every day is so blessed. Some days the tide goes out and leaves the net coated with popweed and small sticks and green slime. You spend hours picking it clean while an easterly cuts through your jacket and seawater finds the hole in your boot. Or, far worse, you might be broke down on the bay, your boat drifting toward the barrens with the tide, or be ambushed in kayaks by waves tall enough to block out the side of land. We all still think of the young couple out for a kayak trip on a sunny January morning, caught by a storm before nightfall. They flipped and drenched, and washing up on the toe of the island sea cliff. She was too weak to go further as the tide climbed. He waiting beside her until the end, then dragging himself up the rocks where rescuers could find him and collapsing. Oh my goodness, that really happens. Terrible. And what happened to those dungeons, for that matter? The bay used to be full of them, and monster king crab too. But now, they say the cycle is down and even sustenance pots are banned. It is just the turn of nature's wheel. Is it just the turn of nature's wheel? Or was it overfishing? Global warming? The crab have gone the way of the mossy spruce forest, lost to the hot summers and spreading gray pall of bark beetles. So is Kachemak Bay a tableau of timelessness, or one of loss and change? The longer we live here, the harder that question becomes. Every time we get a day remarkable for its cloudless, windless perfection, whether for ice skating or tending a summer garden, somebody will express a wish that every day could be like this. And someone else will say, yeah, except if Homer were always like this, we'd have 100,000 people living around the bay. Kachemak Bay is not always But even when it is hard, it is always vibrant and close and insistent as life itself. More than the hunt for food, it's that encounter with life that draws us into the bay. The life that sustains us and the life swimming past, and our own lives too, trailing, barely noticed in our wakes. Written by Tom Kissia. Okay, so here we have picture a summer moon rising over Sadie Cove spreads an inspirational path of gold across the bay. Photo by Will Rice, and here's a photo by Dennis Anderson. Mount Limna, shown here with its three sisters, illuminated in pastel pink, is located along a northern extension of the Ring of Fire. Oh, isn't that beautiful? By Dennis Anderson. Beautiful photo. It says right here. It says, what makes a place special is the way it buries itself inside the heart. Every place, like every person, is elevated by the love and respect shown toward it. Richard Nelson, Alaskan anthropologist and writer of The Island Within, 1989. So here is Dungeness crab, right here, king crab, and tanner crab. Photo by Daisy Lee Bitter. And over here we have a Thanksgiving sunrise by Ron Gefford. Thanksgiving sunrise. How beautiful is that? Look, I'm making my own sunrise with a light bulb reflection. How pretty. It says, those who live with the mysteries of earth, sea, and sky are never alone or weary of life. Rachel Carson, from The Sense of Wonder. And then, this picture here, in a feeding frenzy, excited, black-legged kittiwakes hover and plunge into a school of Pacific sand lances, also known as needlefish. Crazy. That's a frenzy, all right. And over here is Misty Jackaloth Bay, photo by Carla Stanley. They're pretty. And here we have a yellow pod lily blossom stretches for recognition beside its giant heart-shaped leaves. There's a lily, like a lily pad on the water. Pretty. Pretty. Photo by John Tobin. And here, over here, is to the far right of the sun-bleached driftwood. Can you see that picture? On the driftwood are skeletons of Sitka spruce trees killed after the Great Alaska Earthquake of 1964, when the land subsided 4 to 6 feet, allowing salt water to reach the roots of the tree. Photo by C. Neil MacArthur. Isn't that something? From 1964. Yeah. Remember the great earthquake from Alaska? That's a very interesting bit of information. I might read that some night from Wikipedia. That is beautiful. Look at that. Is that Mount Redoubt? Yeah. Every once in a while it has a little eruption. Homer, where the land meets the sea. Over here is Mount Redoubt, can look deceptively serene for a volcano so explosive and dangerous. Photo by Millie Jenkins. Yeah. Every once in a while you hear about it going off. And over here is juicy watermelon berries. Never heard of watermelon berries. Also known as cucumber root. Photo by Janet R. Klein. And how pretty that is. This is magenta fireweed blossoms frame the 4-mile-long Homer Spit, jetting into Kachemak Bay toward the Kenai Mountains. Oh, there's the Spit. It's 4 miles long. I didn't know that. There's firewood blossom. My daughter would make firewood preserves jam, or they make these into preserves, and they would sell them at the farmer's market. And here we have rose hips. The vitamin C rich fruiting bodies of the wild rose are found in 3 forms around the bay. The aptly named prickly rose, the Nootka rose, and hybrids found or ranges overlap. Photo by Nancy Levinson. And log food catches where the old-time Alaskans log food caches were the old-time Alaskans' way of storing or catching food in a place out of reach of marauding bears, lynx, wolves, and wolverines. Many caches were built with stilt-like log legs. Interesting. Photo by Daisy Lee Bitter. Over here, lichens, like the gray and yellow species in this alpine tundra habitat, lichens are capable of breaking down rocks and preparing soil so plants like moss and then more complicated plants can gain a foothold. Interesting. Photo by Dwayne Tofson Stroud. Like light extravaganzas produced by the aurora borealis, also known as the northern lights, provide rewards during the cold, dark winter nights for those who live in the far north. Isn't that pretty? And over here it says, red northern lights are rare. During Alaskans' privileged viewing of this brilliant sky, everything was washed in red. Photos by Dennis Anderson. Unbelievable. Beautiful. Tour of the iconic sites. In Hollywood, you can take a tour past the homes of movie stars. In Chicago, try the architecture tour with its emphasis on skyscrapers. In Seattle, head underground for the tour of what were street-level shops before the downtown streets were raised. In Homer, Alaska, forget the buildings and let us show you the view. Baycrest Hill, of course. Baycrest Hill. Driving south on the Sterling Highway, you pop over the hill and the view of the Kachemak Bay, the spit. There it is right there. Okay? So, a little 4 mile. The mountains, falls open before you. Perhaps you've never seen glaciers spilling out of mountains before. Or perhaps you've wheeled around that corner 100 or 1,000, many thousands of times. And every time it's a stunning surprise and a fresh, heart-clenching vision. Don't forget, in late summer to follow the sunset out of town. At the Baycrest Hill pull-out, park to watch the orange ball teeter on Mount Leomna before flattening or sinking, fading into a pastel sky. The mountains across the bay from anywhere in town. Visitors ask, what are the names of those mountains? You point out the one peak you know, one of the few with a name, Poot Peak or Chocolate Drop. In spring and in fall, you welcome the giant face of the St. Bernard dog or bear that appears its side dark and light in rock and snow. You remember the first time a friend pointed out that face to you, which makes you think of that friend that same day. Fields of fireweed along Skyline Drive with the spit in the distance. Add some low-angle summer light and the blossoms, tall on their stalks, glow more brilliantly pink-purple than even seems possible. This is not to mention the lupine, the chocolate lilies, the wild roses, and the tiny forget-me-nots. Who wouldn't love this place? The Upper Bay and glaciers from McNeil's Sky Trail. Ski the loop from the school and pause at the far end overlook. The mountains tower like white cutouts along the sky, while Dorschen Glacier makes its slow-motion pour toward the water. You might imagine the bay a few thousand years ago, packed with glacier all the way to the spit, and that glacier stopping there to cast off its load of rocks and dirt before receding back up into the mountain. Mount St. Augustine, the island from the Homer Spit. On a clear day, you can see, if not forever, the perfect volcanic cone, perfectly shaped, perfectly by itself, most often perfectly white. Watch for wisps of steam from its summit and locate your nearest tsunami evacuation route. Full moon over the mountains. Wait for late winter for this. The moon is huge. It lights up the mountains and lays a yellow trail across the water, shore to shore. Everything below from above. green field, gray spruce forest, the winks of sun from windows and off metal roofs, blue tarps, the lake and the airport, and the long reach of the Homer Spit. Keep flying up over the glaciers, and your wing tips nearly brush the mountainsides. Coats look up, and lakes shimmer in shades of turquoise. Now you can really see the creases and cracks in the ice, and the wind-carved cornices, and the white water rushing through valleys. You think, wow. Homer Spit. Okay, it's a little too busy crazy these days with all the tourists. Try it in winter. A beach walk on New Year's Day. Your shadow long on the unmarked sand. Mats of pink seaweed. A shiny beach agate. Eagles soaring. Try it from afar. Bringing a boat in from the inlet. Nothing but harbor lights for a very long time. Then the rise of roofs and tanks, the safe harbor home. Written by Nancy Lord. And here's a picture by Neil MacArthur. And here's another picture from Wild North Photography. Fishing. Golden tones assert that fall is here. In this picture here, the mighty ice blue tongue of the Harding ice field reminds us that winter cannot be far away. Oh look, the ice is starting to form. Oh my goodness, I bet that's a pretty photo by Carla Stanley. Pretty. And then here we have right here lush green plants harvested from Homer's hills, and the Homer bench produce hay for huge bales that test even the mightiest. Photo by Linda Smoger right there. And then down here, in summer, hills and meadows are festooned with the bright colors of wildflowers. This bouquet is composed of orange-hued coastal paintbrushes with spikes of blue Nootka lupine and splashes of yellow arnica for accent. Photo by Debbie Reynolds. And pretty. It's just beautiful. Are you guys still awake? And here we have an aerial view of China Put Bay estuary, whose 600 acres provide feeding grounds for a great variety of ducks. Black bear and moose are frequent visitors to the flats. Photo by Janet R. Klein. Beautiful. And over here, cottonwood bark. Photo by Debbie Reynolds. Cottonwood bark. Can you see that? To be in love with the earth is to climb on four limbs, grab branches, moss-grown, hand-hold crowberry, sphagnum, heels dug into leaf death, crawl up scree-fall, pull your body into the saddle where creamy anemones tremble in the southwest gale. Up there, plants are glossed with rain. Grasses nod down to whatever might be listening in that not-so-lonely place. Love, be with me when I die. So I'll eat this. Oh my gosh, look at that. Beautiful. It says, Kachemak Glacier, the jewel of Kachemak Bay, was named after Konstantin Gwenwick, the German researcher who wrote about volcanism and geology in Alaska. Photo by Millie Jenkins. Isn't that beautiful? The earth laughs in flowers. And here to the left, we have Alaska has 7 species of small carnivorous plants. One is the round-leafed sundew, which traps insects amongst the sticky red tendrils. Look at that. They snap shut when an insect gets in there. It snaps shut. Oh my goodness. And then a photo by Dwayne. That was a photo by Dwayne Dolph-Strud. And over here, a photo by Debbie Reynolds. Emerson would certainly agree that this slope, teeming with gorgeous magenta fireweed, must make the earth quake with raucous laughter. Isn't that beautiful? The earth laughs in flowers. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Locals. When we hear his call, we hear no mere bird. We hear the trumpet of evolution. Aldo Leopold in a Sand Country Almanac. So, here we have each April as they arrive and September when they depart, we hear the resonant call of the sandhill cranes, a call that might have been heard on this earth 9 million years ago. Oh my goodness, isn't that pretty? Here, young girls participating in Homer's 4th of July parade. It said, photos by Wild North Photography. How cute. And here we have Kachemak Bay hosts 4 species of loons, the common yellow-billed, Pacific, and red-throated loons. The most elegantly dressed is the common loon with its black tuxedo and string of angular pearls around its neck. Photo by Bob Reynolds. Look at how beautiful that bird is. And then, over here, we feel a mystical kinship with the bay, whether we are in a boat on its surface, taking in its glorious beauty from an overlook, or longing for it from thousands of miles away. Photo by John Tobin. Oh, beautiful. My daughter has pictures of eagles. Just close up in a tree. Unbelievable. Powerful wings lift our largest feathered predator up from the sea with its favorite prey. Unlike so many birds that capture fish for food, bald eagles do not dive. After spotting a fish near the surface, our national bird swoops low and spears the unwary fish with its sharp talons. Look at that. Isn't that something? As many as 500 eagles frequent the end of the spit each winter. Photos by Wild North Photography. Isn't that beautiful? Oh my goodness. And it says, the thing about Homer is you can't make this stuff up. Trust me, I've tried. I used to actually believe that I created a place called the end of the road. A ramshackle, rambunctious fishing town on the edge of the last frontier. This was the place where all of the free spirits, cranks, and modern-day pioneers who were crazy enough to live in Alaska lived. The comparisons to Homer were transparent and undeniable. I would sometimes shove geography and geology around to suit my needs, but by most measures, the end of the road was Homer, and likewise, except, that is, for one essential element, the people. I could never be so bold or so tacky as to exploit the lives of the people I knew, loved, and lived with, or so I believe. If a story demanded the presence of a vegetarian ecological activist, also capable of drowning a cat, I would welcome her as a gift of divine inspiration and deny any comparisons to people living or dead. If I needed a junkyard tycoon or a video store maven, I would snatch these folks out of the primordial ooze that passes for my creative process and bring them to life on the page like so many imaginary friends. But as the story piled up and the population of my make-believe town grew, the population of the real end of the road persisted in noticing themselves. Fully 6 spirited women, all capable of boycotting the Gap and drowning a cat, have confided to me that they knew they were the model for Tamara Dupree, and each forgave me. 3 different people have pointed out my 3 different studies for Argus Winslow, my junkyard man extraordinaire. I didn't know any of them. That's when it dawned on me that perhaps I didn't have as good an imagination as I thought. Could my aging logger and community patron Bud Koenig be that gray-muzzled gentleman in that tinted truck I always sought out on East Road, Doug McDougan? Psychopathic liar and idiot savant? Were those his carvings I noticed in the gallery window downtown? Ed Flanagan, every man's everyman? I never did catch the name of that road grader operator who yanked me out of the ditch on the North Fork Road that one slippery morning. Even the boy, Norman Tuttle, I thought he was me. How could he also be that kid you watched trip over its own feet and knock over the end-cap tomato can display at the grocery store 2 summers ago? I suppose the reason I didn't see the comparisons earlier is that my characters were cartoons. Linda Smogger took that picture. Right here we have a self-portrait of Halibut Cove artist Alex Combs. A 2-color reproductions of action and backstory. Oh, let me finish a sentence. It says, I suppose the real reason I didn't see the comparisons earlier is that my characters were cartoons. Two-color reproductions of action and backstory. While the people I saw every day around Homer were a full 3 dimensions of life, love, and the pursuit of the kind of dreams Alaska inspires. I knew them. I was them. Problem was my limited writing capabilities could never have captured the full warm-blooded essence of the people we were. So I never tried. I ducked behind the make-believe of it and believed it myself. But I don't mean to say that like it's a bad thing. I built a career on this fiction, and my life has taken me to places I could never have imagined. On even my most inspired days, after all these years, what I've come to realize is this. I never created the characters in this place. I called the end of the road, and the rest of the world calls Homer. They created me, and you can believe I love them for that. Topo did. I never created the characters in this place. I called the end of the road. They created me. Topo did. Moose are vegetarians. Browsers, not grazers. Their favorite foods in winter are willow, tree bark, young decadus trees, and alder twigs. Mating occurs in the fall, and calves are born in late May or early June. The number of offspring is directly related to range conditions. Triplets are a rare occurrence, once in every 1,000 births. Photo by Wild North photographer. As the crane parent calls skyward, the young colts learn the survival technique of eternal awareness by parental example. Cranes are perpetually wary of predators, coyotes, wolves, dogs, foxes, and even bald eagles. Photos by Wild North Photography. Horned puffins breed on Alaska's rocky shores and islands each summer. Tufted puffins are numerous around Kachemak Bay and nest on Gull Island, one of the most accessible seabird rookeries in the state. Photo by John Tobin. Oh my goodness, is that a beautiful bird? Oh my goodness. And then over here it says green burrowing sea anemones are thrilling to find, for they make up only 5% of the local anemone population and are often found wedged in rock crevices or surrounded by mud, sand, or gravel. The tentacles are armed with nematocysts, which behave like miniature hypodermic needles, injecting toxin into potential predator or prey. Photo by Dwayne Tollefstrud. Oh my goodness, that is beautiful. What are 3 reasons immediately spring to mind? I think I might save that for last, maybe. Let's look at some more pictures. A bald eagle investigates a curiously stiff woodpecker. Photo by Wild North Photography. That's kind of cute. Over here we have when an angler lands a giant silvery prize like this big king salmon, her emotions are obvious. How much bigger would her smile be if she had landed the world record? Sport caught king salmon, which weighed in at 97.25 pounds. It was caught on its return migration to the Kenai River. Photo by John Tobin. Oh my goodness. Why Homer? 3 reasons immediately spring to mind. Look at this beautiful little beer, wine, lunch, dinner, espresso. I wonder if that's the little shop where my daughter was a barista. It kind of looks like it. I'm not sure. I'll have to talk to her about it. Waste no time. In 1984, my husband John and I lived in Anchorage, where he was a substitute teacher and I struggled at being a first-time mother. When John was hired to play piano in Homer for ensembles at McNeil Canyon and Paul Banks Elementary School, we bundled our baby Sam into the car and drove down the Kenai. We stopped at the top of Baycrest Hill to admire the vista, commenting that Homer was indeed set in a fabulous location, ever so much better than Anchorage, but that was where the work was, so for a while at least, that's where we were stuck. McNeil Canyon School, 12 miles out East End Road, was first on the agenda. Then we hurried back to town for the show at Paul Banks. After it ended, while John gathered up his equipment, I wandered the halls pointing out the students' artwork to amuse my young son Sam. His name so prominent and hallowed, I couldn't help wonder who this Paul Banks fellow was. The town founder, perhaps? The first mayor? Someone of great distinction, obviously. Just then, the principal, Louis McClin, rounded the corner and answered my question. He looked to his right and he looked to his left. Then he pointed to a solitary figure at the end of the hall. A gray-haired gentleman wielding a bucket and a mop. There he is. He's our custodian. The principal then shared and often told Homer tale that Paul Banks had worked at the school since it began, not just as a custodian, but also as a composer and director of uncountable musical events. When the new school was built, a far-sighted school board member suggested that Paul Banks be honored for his many and valuable contributions, and the vote was unanimous. On the drive back to Anchorage, John and I discussed Homer's many attributes, nearly all of which, aside from its spectacular locale, were the citizens themselves. Neither of us had encountered a single dullard, a quality prominent on our list of places to settle. That spring, several jobs became available in Homer, and John was hired to teach at the school named for the famed custodian. We wasted no time moving to the house, which has since been and probably will always be our home. Years passed, and I took a waitressing job at Cafe Cups. Directly across the street was perhaps our main competitor, Don Jose's Mexican restaurant. The problem, one of many, with Cafe Cups was its undependable freezer, which left us to deliver iced lattes and other cold drinks with tiny blobs of frozen ice. Don Jose Ramos graciously encouraged all Cafe Cups workers to cross the street day or night to fill the large containers with ice. He didn't care that he lost some of his own business to To me, his generosity was a staggering revelation. Nowhere, certainly not in Anchorage, nor even the small northwestern town in which I was raised, would such an offer have been made. Sometime later, I experienced the crown jewel of the small town, Joy Post, beloved citizen now deceased, observed my struggle researching certain specific information about World War II. She knew that only her shop, the Homer bookstore, possessed what I needed. Her solution: I should borrow the store's copy of the expensive and oversized hardbound book, take it to the library, Xerox the pages I needed, and then return it to her. My jaw dropped as I scooped up the book and did precisely as she suggested. If you can find a town so accommodating as Homer, I urge you not to waste a moment. Sharon Bushel. That's a sweet little story. That story really got to me. Okay, so here, the owners, right here, this picture right here, the owners of Cafe Cups found a creative solution to the local sign ordinance. Huge three-dimensional coffee cups are mounted over their entrance. Cute. And then here, that's a photo by Linda Smoller. And then here is a lead glass creation in the entrance to the Homer Post Office, photographed by Wild North Photography. We already did that page. Right here, the black oyster catcher has a long, bright red bill whose tip is strangely shaped like a screwdriver. This unique, sharp-edged bill enables it to open bivalve mollusks and pry limpets and barnacles off the rocks. Whoops. Did you see that? Screwdriver-like beak. Over here, that photo by Traveler Taj Turpinning. And here, we know that geese will leave us soon. It will be with nostalgic sadness that we watch them disappear as their lofty chevrons point south. Their exodus signals the end of summer, and our Earth's phenomenon of fall migration assures us of the endurance of nature's eternal cycles. Photo by John Tobin. Sky. All day you change. Slow, careful, casting blue shades on midwinter. Snow which is not white but smoke-colored. I ski. My elongated shadow trails an hourglass you gave me. Cloud bands drift below floating mountains. At midday you tilt the gray sea up to show me its plantar surface. Fishing boats slide down to the rim of the crumbling shale cliffs. They must begin the slow climb up again. Longest, the first hour before nightfall, wood crows fly beneath holding red branches, always with me even in sleep when you drag Orion and Taurus across your surface. I wake and see the dog star, elliptical in the place I cannot enter. After William Stafford by Ava Salinas. Many opportunities exist for one of Homer's most popular winter sports, cross-country skiing. Every direction and every season, scenic beauty is abundant. Scott Dickerson. did that. We are with the history, some history of Homer. Men working on a fish trap, courtesy of the Pratt Museum. Then here we have Oris Russell, Pratt Museum. Oris Russell and Hazel Russell and Bill Wakeland. Fishing. Kachemak residents worked fish traps near Point Graham, Seldovia, Bluff Point, and northward along the beaches. In this 1947 photograph, men erect a small hand trap on Elmer Kelly's site near Ninalitchik during low tide. So that photo's from 1947. From the late 1800s until statehood in 1959, salmon traps proliferated along the Kenai Peninsula shoreline. Each was a maze of spruce poles laced with webbing. During high tides, as salmon migrated along the shore toward their spawning streams, they were forced by these barriers to turn toward deeper water, where they were led into the heart of the trap, then harvested by the fishermen and finally packed into cans for marketing. 5 species of salmon spawn in area waters: pink, red, silver, king, and chum. Kachemak Bay teems with wonderfully edible fish and shellfish, halibut and herring, salmon and shrimp, clams, crab, and cod. Through the decades, each species has been commercially harvested, and many have supported charter, sports, and sustenance fishery. Today, thanks to agriculture, our palates can savor the smooth slide of commercially harvested cultivated oysters and blue mussels. That looks like Homer, Alaska, 1907. These are photos from the Pratt Museum. Homer, Alaska, 1901. And then cabin and field on a field. Russell and Wagon, 1946. Working the land. A cozy cabin, picturesque shocks of hay in the field, and draft horses grace the Swift Creek home site of Oris, Paul, and Hazel Russell in these 1947 photographs. So that's like Ma and Paul Russell. 1947. Self-sufficiency, resourcefulness, and determination characterize North Shore settlers. From the land they harvested food, fuel, and building materials. From the waters, abundant and varied fish, shellfish, seaweeds, and marine mammals. Gardens were often spectacular. Cool weather crops such as potatoes, broccoli, and leafy greens flourished in the long daylight. A cold frame or greenhouse extended the season and expanded the variety of vegetables to include tomatoes, cucumbers, and even dwarf fruit trees. Wild edible plants, including mushrooms, enhanced many a diet, as did berries, raspberries, salmon berries, strawberries, blueberries, cranberries, and more. With the addition of sweeteners and occasionally rhubarb, jars of jams, jellies, and syrups filled the pantries. Contemporary residents still grow great gardens and harvest edibles from the land and sea. Transportation. The beaches of the North Shore served as the first roads for decades. Residents traveled them on foot, on horseback, or in horse-drawn wagons, such as this one driven by Paul Russell, heading toward Homer, right there. Beach travel was determined by the tides. Travel at low tide and way out the high tide. Walking the 16 miles of beach between Anchor Point and Homer was common prior to the construction of the Sterling Highway in the late 1940s. In 2005, residents still drive vehicles on select beaches, particularly to collect coal for heating homes. 1947 Homer, railroad tracks and building Homer, 1901 and 1902, and a coal town of Homer on the spit as seen from the bay in 1900. And these photos are all courtesy of the Mary Whalen collection right here, Mary Whalen collection, and the Pratt Museum. Says Homer on the benchland. The second community of Homer, shown here about 1947, grew slowly on the beachland in the 1910s and 20s. Residents hunted, fished, trapped, gardened, and gathered coal, whatever it took to make a living. The photograph shows Old Town near Bishop's Beach. The flat-topped structure, center left, was built about 1937. And it's one of the older commercial buildings in Homer that still exists. Mining of coal, placer gold, and chromium ore has played a minor but important role in Homer's history. Homer was founded as a coal town. However, the inferior quality of local coal prevented the development of large-scale commercial mining. Small-scale mining occurred sporadically from the late 1880s until 1902, and then again around 1919, and then to the late 1940s. The coal fueled steamships and canneries, heated businesses, homes, and schools. Even today, some people continue to heat their homes with coal. In the late 1890s, placer gold was sluiced from beach gravels near Anchorage Point and is still panned for recreational purposes. Chromium ore, rare in the United States, was mined in the mountains near Seldovia in the 1940s and again in the 1950s. Story by Janet R. Pond. I love these old pictures. And here we have map of Kenai Peninsula and Kachemak Bay, Gulf of Alaska, Cook Inlet. Here's the bay, Kachemak Bay, right in there, and there's Homer. And here's all the credits. Photographers, writers, historical photos. The Homer Foundation. 100% of the profits from the sale of this book go to support the Homer Foundation. Together we can make a difference. The Homer Foundation is a non-profit organization known as a community foundation. Our core purpose is long-term philanthropy with a mission to enhance the quality of life for the residents of the greater Homer area. To this end, we are developing a permanent endowment for the community, meeting prudent standards in the stewardship of these philanthropic assets, and promoting effective and responsible grant making designed to meet the current and future needs of the Southern Kenai Peninsula. As a community foundation, the Homer Foundation is part of the fastest growing sector of philanthropy in the United States today. All community foundations share the common goal of serving donors, nonprofit organizations, and their communities. They build and strengthen communities through philanthropy that is visionary, diverse, and inclusive, and they have become catalysts for improvement within both urban and rural communities. The Homer Foundation offers donors many services and benefits to assist them in meeting their philanthropic goals, including establishing permanent name funds, ensuring that donors receive the most benefit from their charitable contributions, and providing due diligence and oversight for grant making and tax reporting. The Homer Foundation invests in our community through our year-round grants program, the annual City of Homer Grants Program, and several scholarship programs which we administer. In this way, we have been connecting generosity with community need on the Southern Kenai Peninsula since 1991, and you can contact us at the homerfund.org. Not pretty. As a raven sees it looking southward, flying over Skyline Drive, this revised edition, drawn and copyrighted 1995 by M.W. Searle. Instead of as the crow flies, it's as the raven flies. And there's Homer. Here's the spit. Cook Inlet. Isn't that pretty? Are you guys still awake? It's just beautiful. This is a really cool book. I'm so glad my daughter got me this. Thanks for watching.